You're listening to Cinemajaw, the greatest movies podcast ever, recorded on location from Cinemajaw Studios in Chicago. My name is Matt Kay. With me is
Rye, the movie guy, and sitting to my left is Fill Me In Phil.
Hello.
This week on Cinemajaw, Matt, we stalk.
Yeah.
And we stalk. And we stalk as we cover our top 5 favorite stalkers.
There's a joke in there, Ryan, but you know what? I'm going to take the high road. I'm too good for that.
Oh, okay.
All right.
Well, it's interesting because this is sort of our last podcast to come out right before Halloween. Mm-hmm. So a lot of people probably are going to be listening to this after Halloween, to be honest. But we still wanted to do something with a theme of kind of horror.
Well, yeah, we got a horror movie we're going to review.
Right. And Stalker fit pretty well into that as well.
Yeah. Are you dressing up?
I'm not dressing up this year, are you?
Why aren't you dressing up, Ryan?
Well, number one, I don't have a Halloween party to go to this year. And I don't get any trick-or-treaters in the city. I'm in a condo. You know, you've been to my place. It's a small 3-building condo. And to be honest, Wicker Park isn't that big with families. It's much more, young people.
Yuppies.
Yeah. Young yuppies. A lot of, people just getting their first jobs and whatnot. So it doesn't have like a ton of families bringing their kids around. I might get like one,
Get like an eye patch or something?
No.
Paint your face?
I was going to maybe get one person to ring the doorbell looking for candy. Maybe. But there's just no reason.
You just open your window and throw it down at them?
No, I just don't open the door.
You're such a curmudgeon, man. I'm dressing up.
What are you going as?
I'm going to be Ash Ketchum, and Heather's going to be Pikachu. We've done this before. We were going to do Fester and Wednesday, but she didn't feel like pulling the trigger on the costume.
But this is just to take your kids trick-or-treating.
Yeah.
The little one, at least, Quinn.
Right. I'll have a backpack full of beer, and, there's nowhere to pee, so that's always torture.
One of the new trends going around is that people give out beers for trick-or-treating, which didn't happen when I was a young kid. I don't remember, anyways, that my parents were getting adult beverages. But either last year or the year before, I was walking in the neighborhood, not trick-or-treating, just going somewhere. And parents would call me over, like, trick-or-treat, you want a beer? And I'd walk over and I'd grab a beer out of the cooler.
This happens. We go to this neighborhood that is like at Bryn Mawr and Broadway and west of that. Beautiful houses. The trick-or-treating is off the chain. Like, it is wall-to-wall people and everyone's dressed to the nines. They have hot cider and beer and wine at the houses. So we have fun. We make a night of it.
That's awesome. I know, Phil, you're always good for a costume.
Yes, I am shocked, Ryan. Have you no spirit and have you no fun? You don't need a party. You don't need a reason to dress up.
So you just want me in my living room watching a horror movie dressed up as He-Man.
Yes.
Not He-Man.
You do that. Don't sit here and pretend like you're not in a harness and tighty whities every day anyway.
Oh, geez. There's a mental image I didn't need.
You're doing that all the time anyways. That's why it was so immediate recall for you.
Oh, man. Good stuff. Phil, what are you dressing up as?
So you two already saw my costume this year at Hell's Gate. And I don't remember if we actually mentioned it on the show or we just kind of joked about it.
I don't think we did mention what you were dressed as.
Yeah, it's Bulma from Dragon Ball. And the skirt's very short, which that never ends well for me every time I've tried. But it's going to be great. I'm so excited.
Nice.
Phil got comments when we were at Hell's Gate about the costume, so.
Hell yeah, they did. I look great.
Awesome.
Yeah, it was fun. That was a good one. Great costume.
So we're doing Stalkers this week, Matt, in honor of a movie that we just saw yesterday.
Five Nights at Freddy's.
Right. Plus, we also have a review of David Fincher's new one, The Killer.
Can't wait to hear about it.
Which stars Michael Fassbender, and that ties into our trivia this week. Stump the Kubinski, Michael Fassbender movie trivia.
Ooh, okay.
Sound good?
Yeah, I know my Fassbender.
We are wrapping up Martin Scorcese month, so we start there with the fact.
Yes. This one is actually cool because it piggybacks off of last week's. We were talking about how Martin Scorsese had a private screening with the Pope. We're going the exact opposite angle this week with the controversial film The Last Temptation of Christ. Not only has the Pope not seen this movie, I'm assuming, but this film was actually banned in several countries. The bans weren't lifted until nearly 2 decades later. It was finally shown in Colombia in 2001, in Chile in 2003, and in Mexico in 2004. And it is still banned in the Philippines and Singapore. A few American cities have also taken legal action against the film. Pensacola, Florida. Of course, it's Florida. It's always Florida. They passed a resolution making it illegal to show the film in the city. There was a theater that scheduled it regardless, which I love. That's metal of them. And a federal judge nullified the resolution hours before the first screening for them. And a studio representative had actually made a run for the border with the film reels until getting word that the screening was happening.
Wow.
Crazy.
It is absolutely crazy. And believe it or not, it's another Scorcese film I have not seen.
Oh, I've actually seen The Last Temptation of Christ. It's kind of boring, if I'm being honest. Like, maybe I was way too young, but I didn't get what the whole controversy was about at all. But it's crazy that movies were that dangerous,
right.
You know?
And influential, where people were like, oh, you can't watch this. It's going to,
right.
Stir them to the dark side.
It's banned in Florida.
I was going to say, it's very book-burny, isn't it?
Oh, very. Yeah.
Like, who cares?
Right. Yeah, you don't like it? Don't watch it. Simple as that. But yeah, some people take this stuff very, very seriously, and I respect it up to a point, but not to the point of censorship. All right, that brings us to our first review, Five Nights at Freddy's. From the trusted, I guess, horror studio Blumhouse comes the fan favorite Five Nights at Freddy's adaptation from the video game series of the same name. This movie has a built-in fan base of devoted cosplayers, lore theorists, YouTubers, and gamers. But can we get past night one? Ryan and I checked the monitors to find out.
Hi, this is Mike. I was just calling to see if that job that you offered was still available.
Yes. The security guard.
I will take anything.
This place was huge in the 80s with the kids. They shut it down years ago. The owner's just not ready to let it go yet.
I will work and you will sleep.
I understand.
Give me your hand.
Five Nights at Freddy's, or FNAF as the fans know it, opens with the death of a security guard at the titular establishment. We then meet Mike, a down-on-his-luck security guard who takes care of his young sister after the parents have left the picture. Mike seems to be struggling with repressed memories of a tragedy in his youth and using self-administered dream therapy to remember key details. It's about then he takes a job from a career specialist played by Matthew Lillard in a beefy cameo which Rye would probably call a small role. The job seems simple enough. Look after an abandoned pizza place, think Chuck E. Cheese. Keep people out, and keep the place tidy-ish. But nothing is as it seems at Freddy Fazbear's Pizza, and soon a mystery unfolds, a body count rises, and animatronic attractions come to life. I think FNAF does a good job of setting the tone. This is an accessible starter horror movie, if you will. There are beats of humor and beats of dread, even though at the end of the day, it's all rather silly that their animatronic gang from Chuck E. Cheese is stalking around and murdering people. That being said, the film acknowledges this. The fan service is also clearly there with some fun cameos from YouTubers and nods to the deep lore that FNAF fans crave, but it never took away from the story, and I bet a noob like Rye didn't even notice. The mystery element is particularly well done, and this is perhaps what has always made the FNAF series rise above its somewhat silly premise. There is lore here, things to be discovered, a hidden villain, friends are enemies, and enemies are friends, ghosts, traps, robot killers. It's all good, horrific fun for the entire family. Ryan, as someone who's never actually been completely unaware of the property before the film, how did it play to the layperson?
Pretty terrible, if I'm going to be absolutely honest. Yeah, there was not much to like here at all. And I think the mistake the filmmakers made was not committing to a particular tone or theme. There's too much going on here. On the surface, for instance, let's go. It's supposed to be a scary movie. But was it really scary, Matt? You're saying there was a jump scare. It was not scary.
There was some good jump scares.
I didn't even think the jump scares were good. This definitely was not scary, though, at all, for anybody. I wouldn't even say preteens would be scared in a movie like this. So it's not even like an age thing. Okay, so there's no scares, right? It's supposed to be a horror comedy to a degree. But was it really funny? I didn't laugh at all, other than the Uber driver. I'll give the Uber driver some laughs.
That was a YouTuber.
Whatever. That's a famous YouTuber, you're saying?
Yes.
Okay, well, whatever. That was pretty funny, his reactions. And then lastly is the drama of the movie about searching for his lost brother. But I didn't care enough about the characters to care about the actual drama either. So didn't like the drama, didn't like the comedy, wasn't scared. Blah. Complete blah here.
Wow. I mean, maybe what's missing here, Ryan, is the fandom, because...
Well, so that necessarily doesn't make it a good movie. I understand that fans, like you're saying, there's fan service moments. Great for them. I'm happy. If they know this movie, or I should say the video game now turned into a movie, that's cool. I like it. But I mean, again, coming from this and not knowing the property at all, it really did nothing to wow me in any direction where I was like, oh, okay, I like this aspect of it. And what bothers me is I think it actually had some interesting things going for it. This idea of him doing the dreaming to try to catch new
unlock
clues.
Some memories, yeah.
Like that idea. The creepiness of the pizza place itself, and we'll go into that more as the review goes on. Pretty damn awesome. Lean into that. But instead, it, for me, didn't lean heavy enough into any one of those areas for me to say, yes, that was working. And unfortunately for me, none of it worked.
Listen, I agree with you on the scare level. This is not a scary movie. It's about like a step above, in terms of scariness, a step above Goosebumps. This is probably something you could take a 10-year-old to.
Oh, easy.
And they'd be scared, and there is some dread. Especially, I thought the opening was pretty scary, and there are some pretty scary beats throughout. And the jump scares, I don't care what you say. I got gotten a few times with Balloon Boy, like when he was in the locker and stuff. That was hilarious to see, by the way.
Like I said, every once in a while, I'm not saying I didn't chuckle and have a small laugh, but it could have been much funnier and much scarier for sure.
Oh, I had a great time. Let's. I mentioned Matthew Lillard.
Yeah,
Big fan here. Big fan.
I know.
Here.
I don't want to get into this argument again because we've argued it to death. But you are so off on a cameo and a small role. He's like, his character is almost key to the entire movie, and you're calling it a cameo.
He's got like 5 minutes of screen time.
Doesn't matter. His character is literally the key of like a major plot point in the movie.
I said you would probably call it a small role.
It's for sure a small role.
They had him on set for one day.
Doesn't matter. He's an absolute key. Again, a cameo, if he came in and made like a gag that meant nothing to the movie.
You're right. That is more of a cameo.
Right.
So how'd you... Dude, did he get old or what?
Yeah, he did get old. I'm not obviously a fan like you are, where I was super excited to see him, but always nice to see Matthew Lillard pop up. And I actually thought he did a pretty fine job here. It was good.
Yeah, that's Matt from Skate TV, man. Let's not forget. And SLC Punk, the Punk.
I thought maybe they aged him up a little bit, but I guess that was just how he looks.
His voice sounds different too. But like when he gets going, and I don't want to give anything away, but when he gets going, you see that old Matthew Lillard energy, like from Hackers and stuff, start to come out. It's great to see. I love this guy. I want to see him in everything.
Maybe he's going to have a comeback. I don't think it's going to be from this movie, though.
All right. Speaking of Lillard, let's talk about the rest of the cast. Josh Hutcherson, Mary Stuart Masterson.
What was she doing in this?
I don't know. That's June.
Yeah, I laughed when her name came up on screen. I'm like, what the hell happened to her career?
She hasn't been in much lately, right?
I agree. This is when I knew we were in some worrisome territory, was when that Josh Hutcherson is the lead. I mean, this guy...
Is he like a poor man's Tom Holland?
I don't even know if a poor man... I don't know if he's quite even in that league of poor man's Tom Holland.
He's like the Goodwill Tom Holland.
But no, I mean, obviously he had his big break at the Hunger Games.
That's what he's from. Right. I couldn't remember.
Yeah, and since then, I don't know what the guy has really been in. And now he's the starring lead in this movie. I was like, oh, geez, this can't be too good.
Dude, here's the thing. We're kind of... You didn't like the movie, but you do understand that all the fans I saw walking out had big smiles on their face. I brought Parker, my son, with me, who is 16. He's been playing FNAF since he was like 8. used to scare the shit out of him. Like, we had to tape things up over the vents in our house because he was convinced that Cupcake would come and bust through the vent and kill him. Probably shouldn't have let him play that game. The fans are going to connect with this movie. It's going to be a minor hit.
I'm sure it is. I already saw, just, doing research as we do for The Jaw. I'm always on these sites, and I saw that people are predicting this will be the #1 movie at the box office. So I think it will do really well, and it's opening on Peacock at the same time. So
that's almost a mistake, I think.
Yeah, but Peacock I needs that kind of publicity too. They're on the lower end of the streaming sites. So getting something like this at the same time as, in the theater, I think is kind of a win for them.
It's going to suck for the theaters.
The theater seemed, people were reacting pretty well to it, but I think you could tell the critics, around me anyways, were no one was into it.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see what Pat McDonald has to say about this. Piper Rubio, the little girl who plays Abby in the film. What a fresh face! What a great new talent!
She did really well. There's no doubt. That was a highlight for me. I hate sometimes child actors that
that suck.
Yeah,
especially in horror movies.
And when it's it's pretty dramatic of a role. She's got to carry it, and she did pretty well.
You know who she reminded me of? Oh my God! Can we throw it in the fish tank because I cannot remember this actress's name. And she did go on to reprise the role and had a bit of a career for herself. The little girl in Halloween 5, I think. She dresses up as a clown. She's somehow related to Michael Myers. I think it's either 4 or 5, Phil. I can't remember. But she kind of had that same, because she's got some issues. She's not connecting socially.
Right.
And then, she's kind of not afraid of the evil that lurks in Freddy's.
Right, which gives her this kind of like dark, tone, this dark atmosphere around her. Like, what is this child up to?
Right. I thought that was good. That was creepy. Like, I liked her character,
too. This is probably why it pains me that the movie was so disappointing, because I thought that was pretty interesting as well. But I just didn't think that was, brought to light either.
Explored?
Yeah, I should have explored that a little bit more.
Do we see a sequel in our crystal ball
If it does well...
Right.
Yeah, obviously, it's all about the money. And obviously, the movie ends. This isn't a spoiler, so that it can be a sequel. And
what movie doesn't?
Right. And I would imagine you would know, because you obviously have played the video game, that there's many installments of this game.
Yeah.
So, yeah, then it would make sense.
Yeah.
That there would be more sequels.
I will say this, and I am by no means an expert. Like, Parker was schooling me on the lore.
Lore.
Yeah. Oh, dude. I mean, seriously, one of the guys in this movie, and I don't want to spoil a cameo. Let's just say it this way. There are YouTubers whose entire career is built on this video game and exploring the intricate little possibilities and stories and theories. Mm-hmm. So anyway,
and I know you think that everybody knows this game, but I'm sure there are a lot of people.
Millions and billions of views.
I'm not sure. I'm sure that that's true. But again, we're doing a movie podcast. We don't know who's listening. There's a lot of people that probably don't even know the premise of the video game.
Sure.
So in a
this isn't a video game podcast,
right? So in a nutshell, how would you actually beat the game? You got to stay in Freddy's for all 5 nights or something.
The first game,
yeah,
it's actually really fun and scary. And now you can play it in VR, which I know you're a fan of.
Right.
Get ready to poop your pants. So the premise of the first game is you're the security guard at Freddy's, and you have to check the monitors. You can only check one at a time, and the first night is pretty easy. You just have to, when one of the animatronics comes, because you can see them in your things, you got to close the doors. And then it gets increasingly difficult. There's all kinds of little things, and whenever you die, there's a jump scare. It gets pretty stressful. It's fun. It's kind of like a resource/time management game. It's hard to describe. It's really unique. That's why it was a hit.
But is each night repetitive? So once you die
Somewhat.
on the second one, you realize, oh, this is what I have to do to survive day 2.
Yeah, and I don't remember if it's straight up patterns or if there's some randomness to it. But yeah, obviously a strategy starts to emerge and you get better and better. But that doesn't change the fact that every time you fail, you get scared. And, it's like shock therapy. You start to become really sensitive. It's good.
Yeah. How about a jaw-dropping moment here for the film? I am going with the look of the animatronic robots, which we have not gone into too much detail. But you mentioned this looks very much like a Chunky Cheese's.
Right.
What was that pizza place way back in the day?
Showtime?
Showtime, where you had, these ridiculous...
Obviously, this is based on that.
Right. So you have these animatronics. This is why, another point, it really did look creepy.
They looked creepy back then, the real ones.
Right. And so now in this film, I was like, all right, I could see looking at like the advertisements for it. I thought, yeah, maybe this is going to have a shot at actually being pretty scary. And then when you see them on screen, the dread starts to build, but the scares never really materialize, unfortunately for me. But the look of those were pretty well done.
Yeah, like the first time you see an eye move or something like that. Yeah, it was pretty good. My jaw-dropping moment was the cupcake attack, because it is just silly, and it brought me straight back to the 80s. It was like B-movie horror. I loved it, like Toxic Avenger, trauma stuff.
Yeah.
Very good. Loved it. Stupid, hilarious.
Movie poster quote I went with, 5 nights at Freddy's is 4 nights too long.
You're curmudgeon as usual. Mine is, put down your device and get into the suit at 5 nights at Freddy's.
I'll go first here on my Jaws because it's really low. I am not recommending this one, Jawheads. If you've played the video game, I'm sure there's something here to like. If you haven't, I recommend staying away, like myself. 1.5 Jaws.
I had a total blast with 5 Nights at Freddy's. I am recommending it. If you haven't played the game, maybe this will make you curious to explore the source material. 3 Jaws from Matt K. Strong family horror movie for right in time for the Halloween season. So even though you'll be listening to this
maybe
right before Halloween,
if they're listening on Monday, Tuesday. So
yeah, so go see this one. Spooky season can be all year round.
Right.
3 Jaws.
3 Jaws for Matt K. 1.5 Jaws for Rye the Movie Guy for 5 Nights at Freddy's. Again, it's playing in theaters and on Peacock right now. Let us know what you think. Shoot us an email, feedback@cinemajaw.com. You somehow came up with the idea of stalkers from this movie, which is a bit of a stretch.
It's not, because Phil, back me up. The animatronics stalk you. Like you look and one is moved and then the other one's moving and they slowly come to get you.
Okay. I guess, but not what I was thinking of when stalkers. But we're doing stalkers.
Yeah. And it should be noted, we are eliminating the big 3 out of this. So no Jason, no Freddy, and no Michael Myers.
For sure.
Too easy. Yeah. Low-hanging fruit, Ryan. We're better than that.
And when you're thinking stalker, the name stalker, I don't even think of Freddy as a stalker.
I don't think of Freddy, but definitely Michael Myers.
Really, that's the only one that I would definitely say is
Jason.
Right,
Jason looks in the windows. He's hiding under the bed. He's a bit of a stalker.
Yeah. All right, well, let's get our list going. Without those 3 on there, what do you got at 5, Matt?
At number 5, I am going with Chip, as played by Jim Carrey in the movie Cable Guy.
Nice.
This movie's a comedy, right? Matthew Broderick.
Dark comedy.
Dark comedy. It's actually kind of disturbing when you take a step back and try to look at this objectively as like, what if this was reality? It's really, Chip is a pretty disturbed individual. And the lengths he goes to foster this friendship with Matthew Broderick's character are downright insane. Schizophrenic, sociopathic, scary. So I thought he was a great stalker. He would always be wherever Broderick was, Creepy.
It's a good pick.
Thanks.
I like Cable Guy. That was one I caught up with very late and am a fan of. It's funny, I didn't actually put down particular stalkers, just the movie.
Oh, we were doing stalkers.
But these obviously have stalkers in them, but mine are mainly for the movie, just so you know.
Well, fair enough.
So
Cable Guy's a good recommend.
It is. My number 5 pick came out in 2018. The name of the film is called Greta, and it stars Isabelle Hubert and Chloe Grace Moretz.
Always love Chloe Grace Moretz.
And the film follows this young girl who Chloe plays, who befriends a lonely widow. And what happens is Chloe's character had lost her mom recently. She's on like the subway, and this older lady forgets her handbag, and so she grabs the handbag and finds her like address and name and goes to this lady's house to return the handbag, and then they they become friends. And she sees that, like, oh, she's a widow, and this older lady starts to, like, become really good friends with, you know, the younger girl. We don't know why at the time. And it's the older lady, played by Isabel, who's the stalker in the situation, starts to stalk Chloe Grace Moretz. And we don't understand why. And I'll just give you one creepy moment, because there's a lot of twists in this one that I don't want to spoil. But at one point, Chloe is walking around this lady's house after being friends with her for a long time, and she opens up a closet and sees an entire closet full of those handbags that she left on the subway, and they've been returned. And it's like, what is going on here? Really interesting flick.
That's creepy.
It's called Greta. Check that one out.
I saw that one pop up a lot while I was doing my research. I haven't seen it, so maybe I got to watch it. All right. I'm going with a more recent pick at number 4. Russell Crowe turned in a, let's call it, beefy performance in the movie Unhinged.
It's good.
What starts as a simple case of road rage snowballs into somebody just deciding, you know what? I'm going to ruin this person's entire life and kill anyone who gets in my way. The body count rises, the violence rises. It's a pretty, like, surprisingly good movie. Mm-hmm. I'd say Russell Crowe rarely disappoints.
Yeah, it was an odd one for him. I mean, usually he's going for, like, acclaimed roles,
I think it was
this kind of things.
Was it a pandemic movie?
It was definitely a pandemic movie, and I remember being like, what is he doing making this film? We don't normally see him in you know, A, psychotic like this, and B, and just like kind of like a glorified B movie is what this is. And it worked. It actually worked.
He brought a little gravitas to it.
He really did. It's a good pick. My number 4 is very similar. It's odd that these both landed at our number 4. This one came out in 2020, and it's called Alone. And it also is about a woman, but this one's a young woman who's a widow, and she is moving. And during her drive, and she's way out in the wilderness, she keeps encountering a mysterious man, but it's not Russell Crowe. It's a different guy. But it happens in several places. She sees him on the highway. Then when she stops for gas, she sees him checking into the motel. He's at the same motel at a rest stop. But he doesn't seem to be stalking her. It just seems to be almost like it could be coincidence. But after so many coincidences, you start to think like, wait a minute, what's going on? And then all hell breaks loose, and it becomes a chase in the wilderness. Very simple premise, well executed. This is a good thriller. It's called Alone.
I've never seen that one either.
No, this was another glorified B movie for sure.
Okay.
A lot of stalker movies are, let's be honest.
Speaking of B movies, Ryan, from the 80s, smack dab in the middle, 1986, in fact, when I started dating Heather we started talking about movies. Turns out my wife is big into horror.
She should have ran then.
Yeah, she should have. She was like, "You've never seen this movie?" And she put it on right away, and we watched it together. The Hitcher, starring Rutger Hauer and Thomas C. Howell.
I've never seen this.
You've never seen The Hitcher?
No, and this is a blind spot for me. It always pops up sometimes. Yeah.
Yeah, The Hitcher is great. They went on to make a bunch of sequels, and I believe it's even been remade. I'm not speaking for any of those. The original one is this, like, he picks up a hitchhiker, and he, gets creeped out by the guy, and he, for good reason.
Wait, who's the hitcher? Who's the hitchhiker?
Rutger Hauer.
Okay.
Rutger Hauer's character's name is Ryder.
Okay, and it's Thomas C. Howell who's picking him up.
Who's the driver.
Gotcha. Okay.
Right. And wackiness ensues. I mean, like, basically, he can't get rid of this guy. It's like Jim Carrey from Cable Guy, only instead of wanting to be friends, Rutger Hauer wants to rip his face off. And he kills anyone who gets in his way. Again. Yeah.
Maybe I'll watch this before Halloween.
It's a good one. Yeah.
Can we see if it's streaming anywhere, Phil? Hitcher. My number 3 pick, 2018? Oh, my goodness. I thought this was older. 2018. Steven Soderbergh gave us a movie called Unsane that starred Claire Foy as Sawyer. And she's a woman who moves away from her home in Boston to escape a stalker. However, she is still traumatized, having a brief reaction while on a date. So she ends up talking to a counselor at, a center there, and unknowingly signs a consent form to be voluntarily in a 24-hour facility with these doctors. And then she can't get out of the hospital. And because of her way she's reacting to this, realizing that they won't let her leave for 24 hours, the doctors say, okay, now we need you in this hospital for 7 days. And all of a sudden you're like, wait a minute, I'm not insane. And it's one of those movies where I don't want to give away the twist, but are we watching an insane person, or are we watching something happening to a perfectly,
perfectly sane person. Yeah,
or
she's
is she
being
insane?
gaslit.
Right,
Yeah.
exactly. And you got to try to figure that kind of thing out. Worth a spin for sure. I wasn't the biggest fan upon watching it, but for a list like this, when we're talking Stalkers, it was one that jumped into my head right away.
Yeah, I saw this one pop up a lot too. So who's stalking her?
Well, in the beginning, I think she even has flashbacks, if I remember correctly. But the whole premise is that
she believes she's being stalked.
Yeah, believed she was being stalked, and then when she's trying to get on with her life, she's having like something that would set her off. So she's on this date, and then it's like, oh my God, she has this like flash of worrisome that she's being stalked again, and so then that's what leads her to go to this hospital, and then a big twist unfolds.
Creepy.
Insane.
All right. That swings it over to my number 2. And this is a movie, speaking of gaslighting, it ties in nicely. Came out in, I think, January of 2020. Movies that come out in January they're
iffy.
They're iffy. This was not iffy. It was good. I think I was a little hard on it at the time, but I've come around. There are a lot of plot holes, which we go over famously in a YouTube video. The Invisible Man. It's Elizabeth Moss, who is being stalked by the Invisible Man. And when you're being stalked by the Invisible Man, nobody fucking believes you, Ryan.
No, can't see him.
Right. It's like he could be in the room. He could be the one picking the knife up off the table and slitting your sister's throat in the middle of a restaurant, crowded restaurant, and nobody believes you.
Right.
Talk about terrifying. I thought it was a really good adaptation of the old Invisible Man.
I have actually seen this movie, I think, 2 more times since we reviewed it on the show. Yeah, it was like a really cheap 4K disc right after it came out, like at Black Friday kind of deal. And I bought it, for like $5-6 because I just got my 4K DVD player. I was like, I gotta watch this thing, and I watched it, and the sound and the way it looks. I'm like, this movie rocks. I was too hard on it when we reviewed it. I really enjoyed it on subsequent viewings. So I love this pick.
One of the great openings.
Oh, the opening's fantastic. Her trying to get out of the house, and this is before the invisible suit comes out. This is just trying to get away from a crazed boyfriend.
Right.
Oh my God.
There are a lot of plot holes.
Yes.
Yeah. But if you just have fun with it, I think it's actually really well done.
But back to that opening, I still remember the shot. She's running out of the house, and she gets into a car that stops on the side of the road. And there's a great shot of her getting in the car, and like the way the camera swings back, and then the crazed boyfriend comes running up to the car. Oh, man.
Yeah. And he's
scary.
like punches the glass, right?
It's so great. It's a wonderful opening to a film.
It is.
Good pick. My number 2 is a film that I caught over at the Music Box as part of the Chicago Critics Film Festival back in 2020 when it came out from the pandemic. They had that late festival, late in 2020. And the film is actually called Watcher. And I only have brought it up here on the Jaw when I was doing like a quick recap of the festival and giving some highlights. And I mentioned this movie Watcher. And it got a decent release, but everything back then at the end of the pandemic
collapsed.
I was like, nothing was big, at the time. But wow, what a premise. It's a American couple end up relocating in Bucharest, and they move into an apartment building with this like large window. And the husband, when he goes to work, leaves his wife at home, and it's a new city to her. And she notices a man looming in a window across the way in the building. And she starts to think that he's staring and stalking her. And then when she goes to the market, she thinks that she sees him, and so on and so forth. But the whole thing, again, is one of these play on, is she imagining this because she's in a new city and is afraid of everybody? And you know how that would be when you're in new surroundings.
Yeah.
Or is there actually a stalker, actually stalking her? And again, another movie with a twist where I want to dance around it and not get into spoiler territory, but really fun, way of looking at the whole stalker genre in general. This one surprised me. I think it's a great one to check out if you're listening to this right before Halloween and you want a little bit of a creeper. The movie's called Watcher.
Okay. Time for our number ones, Ryan.
This is good.
I'm just going to come right out and say it, man. The best stalker in film, in my opinion, excluding the ones we excluded, is Max Cady, as played by Robert De Niro in Cape Fear. Terrorizes Juliette Lewis and, man, who plays the dad? Nick Nolte.
It is Nick Nolte. You're right.
Yeah. And so Cady has been obsessed with this lawyer who is, I believe, his public defender who screwed him up, and he wound up going to jail, and he tattoos vengeance is mine. De Niro got into great shape for this role. He's like doing pull-ups in a jail cell. He gets under their car.
That's the scariest part, is the under the car part.
Definitely scary. He also like gets to the daughter and like corrupts her and like makes out with her, which is really, really creepy. Like everything about Max Cady is like the epitome of a stalker.
So we should do an episode one time where we name Simpson episodes that we saw before we saw the actual thing that they were spoofing. You know what I'm talking about? So in this case, like I, again, had not seen Cape Fear for the longest time. And I saw a Simpsons episode where it's a spoof on Cape Fear where Sideshow Bob is the Max Cady.
Yeah.
You know the episode.
Oh, yeah, of course.
I remember thinking, oh, my God.
That's an early one.
Yeah, I was laughing, but was still creeped out even by Sideshow Bob in that one. And then eventually I saw Cape Fear, and I was like, oh, the Simpsons did such a good job. That under the car thing especially jumps out at me.
Was that a Treehouse of Horror?
Oh, don't know. Can we throw that in the fish tank?
Boy, poor Phil, drowning in there.
I know. Simpsons spoofing Cape Fear. That was a good one. My number one pick, I wanted to go with a classic horror director. And this actor who stars in this movie is having the best year of his career, might win an Academy Award. Now, put it at number one, and let's talk about this movie. Wes Craven directed, so we're in good hands. Came out in 2005. It stars Rachel McAdams and Cillian Murphy, Oppenheimer himself. I'm speaking of Red Eye.
That's a good one.
You've seen this one?
Yeah, of course I've seen it. I don't know if I'd put it at number one.
Yeah. So, and the thing is I mean, obviously this is one that really opens up and it gets like really crazy kind of a plot. But
takes place on a plane.
Right. But the opening and the moments where she realizes that, quote unquote, he's stalking her are really creepy. She goes to the airport waiting for the plane, and they talk and they meet at like the lounge area. Then they get on the plane and he ends up having the ticket right next to her. And that's like a little red herring. But then as they're starting to talk, he knows more about her. And then all hell's starting to break loose because she has a very important job. There's an assassination attempt. There's all this weird stuff. The plot just keeps getting bigger. And it's really done with just two characters on this plane until the very end of the movie when, you know, the sort of finale. But for the most part...
Do they get off the plane? They
do.
Okay, yeah. I don't remember. I haven't seen it since they came out.
For the most part, it does take place on the plane. And this whole idea that, oh, you think you're just meeting somebody at airport, but...
They're out to get you.
They're out to get you. Red Eye, it's a good one.
Got any honorables?
I got a couple.
All right,
I went with The Gift, which...
You love this movie.
Which stars Jason Bateman and Rebecca Hall and, what's his name? Joel Edgerton. And Edgerton plays a guy who ends up knowing Bateman from way back in the day. But the lead up to that, when he's just like walking around by their house and all this weird stuff is going on, very stalking. And then a film by the name of Cachet, which is done by that Michael Haneke.
Oh, yeah.
And that's where a family is getting tapes sent to them. And the tapes sent to them are surveillance videos of their house.
Yeah, you told me about this one, too.
I love this one, yeah.
That is weird. I like high concept movies like that. All right, Single White Female needs to be mentioned.
Good one.
Psy in 1 Hour Photo, played by Robin Williams.
Yeah.
Glenn Close in Fatal Attraction.
Of course, this is a heavy hitter.
And we mentioned De Niro on my list, but how about Robert De Niro in The Fan?
Never saw it.
Never saw The Fan?
No, with Wesley Snipes, right?
Yeah, that's a good one.
Never saw that one.
Creepy AF.
It's a remake, too.
Is it?
Yep.
I didn't know.
I noticed that on my research today because I was looking at different movies. I was like, oh, yeah, The Fan. And I clicked on something. It's a remake of a movie called Fan. So
we got to watch it.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Jawheads, if we missed your favorite movie about a stalker or just want to talk about Matt Kay stalking people.
Yeah, if we missed your favorite stalker, just look out the window because we're there.
Shoot us a tweet. We're at Cinemajaw or an email, feedback@cinemajaw.com. We are taking a break, and when we come back, we have a review of The Killer, new David Fincher, plus Stump the Kubinski. Stick with us.
Let's all go to the lobby.
We all talk about this movie, but not this scene. This scene gets overlooked, but it says a lot about the character's background and psyche. Here is the scene that answers how he became the title. Here is the job interview scene from Taxi Driver.
Harry, answer that.
So what do you want to hack for, Bickle?
I can't sleep nights.
There's porn up there just for that.
Yeah, I know. I tried that.
So what do you do now?
Ride around nights mostly. Subways, buses. Figure, I'm gonna do that. I might as well get paid for it.
Want to work uptown nights, South Bronx, Harlem?
I work anytime, anywhere.
Will you work Jewish holidays?
Anytime, anywhere.
All right, let me see your chauffeur's license. How's your driving record?
It's clean. It's real clean, like my conscience.
Are you gonna break my chops? No trouble with guys like you come in here and break my chops all the time. If you're gonna break my chops, you can take it on the arches right now. You understand?
Sorry, sir. I didn't mean that.
Physical.
Clean.
Age.
26.
Education.
Some. Here, there,
Military record.
Honorable discharge, May 1973.
Oh, you in the Army?
Marines.
I was in the Marines, too. So what is it? You need an extra job? Are you moonlighting?
Well, I just want to work long hours. What's moonlighting?
Look, just fill out these forms and check back tomorrow when the shift breaks.
Sparkling drinks, and all dandy, 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 dandy.
And we are back on Cinemajaw, Ryan. And you know what? I think we threw more things into the fish tank than we have in quite some time. And it's about time we hear from Phil. Why don't we open up that fish tank?
Wait a moment! It's fish! Isn't it?
DC! Wake up! No, Pat, it's a giant glass bowl. Hey, there's some fish folk.
Who's coming with me besides Flipper? Here.
That's a Sicilian message. It means Luca Brasi sleeps with the fishes.
You're gonna need a bigger boat.
Thank you so much. It is so great to be out. Something we haven't said. I know we talked about our costumes, but also Jawheads, happy Halloween. Please, we love you guys. At feedback at cinemajaw.com. Send us you in your Halloween costume if you got any. Bonus points if they are movie themed.
Favorite candy? Let's go round robin real quick. Start with Ryan.
You're talking that I would be happy
Halloween,
to get in?
Yeah, Halloween candy.
I used to love the mini Kit Kat.
Okay.
Because it was 2 bars. You know the mini Kit Kat?
Yeah.
2 bars.
Now or as a kid?
Now.
Now it would be Skittles.
Well,
Skittles.
now I wouldn't take anything. I don't even eat candy, period.
I don't eat much candy either.
Yeah.
Reese's
I
peanut
love
butter
candy,
cups.
but I don't eat a chocolate anymore, so.
Candy corn?
Oh,
Gross.
I hate it. Don't even bring
Gross.
it up.
Okay, all right. Sorry, Phil. I know there's a lot in there.
There's actually not too much. There's only 3. Her first one, who is the girl from the Halloween series who dresses as the clown? That character is Jamie Lloyd. She was played by Danielle Harris, and she was actually in Halloween's 4, 5, and 6. So not just 4 or 5.
Yeah,
all 3 of them.
She was big. Yeah.
I did look it up too. The film with the clown costume was the 4th Halloween.
Thank you.
The Return of Mike Myers.
I think that's what I said.
Yeah.
Okay, good.
Is The Hitcher streaming anywhere? A few places, yes. Not likely that you own these or have access to these places, but they are there. If you have DirecTV, you're a member there, you can stream it from DirecTV's on demand, as well as on Cinemax. I didn't realize that Cinemax still existed.
I didn't either. I was about to say I didn't even know that was a thing. I used to love it back when I was a kid.
Yeah, everyone did after 10 o'clock.
Right, Skinemax.
And then the last one was the Simpsons Cape Fear spoof, Treehouse of Horror episode, and it was not. It was just a regular episode.
Interesting.
I would have bet on that one because I remember that being kind of long, and those Treehouse of Horrors are shorter vignettes because there's just like 3 of them in an episode. And I remember thinking, after you said that, giving it some thought, like that was a longer episode. So
yeah, good one.
It was a good one. A lot of the spoofs of The Simpsons, like I said, I remember there's been numerous ones where I've seen The Simpsons spoof before I saw what it was spoofing. And it's like, oh, right, it's hilarious.
That's fascinating, Rye. I mean, that's weird.
It happens sometimes.
I guess so.
You know?
Yeah. Like you saw the Five Nights at Freddy's movie before you ever played the video game.
Right. There's a good chance I would never play the video game.
You're going to play it. You're going to put on your VR helmet tonight.
Maybe. At some point, maybe.
I mean, it's definitely a good VR game. Scare the shit out of you.
That's what I like.
Okay. Have fun.
That was everything, Phil?
That's all we got.
All right. Next week on the show, we will have a review of Priscilla, the new Sofia Coppola movie. I got out and saw that already.
Not Queen of the Jungle.
No.
Just make that distinction.
And maybe a movie called Painkillers on Netflix.
Yeah, I've been seeing posters for that around town on the bus stops.
That might be in play as well.
Is it Painkillers or Pain Dealers?
I think it's Painkillers.
Okay, we'll go with that.
Could be Pain Dealers. Not sure. But that's what we're looking forward to next week. And we'll have a new theme.
Yeah.
How excited.
Who's it going to be?
We still got a meeting on that.
We don't know.
Yeah. All right. Jump back in that fish tank.
You bet.
The last movie David Fincher directed was Mank in 2020.
Wow.
Which was not your typical David Fincher kind of film. For his last dark thriller, you have to go back to 2014's Gone Girl. That makes it 9 years. 9 years since we got the kind of Fincher film I love. He is back in a strong way with his latest Netflix film, The Killer, starring Michael Fassbender. It is getting a small theatrical release in select theaters now and will hit Netflix on November 10th. I checked it out to see how killer it is.
This is what it takes. My process is purely logistical. If I'm effective, it's because of one simple fact. I don't give a
After one of the faster opening credit scenes I've ever witnessed, we open up in Paris with the killer, played by Michael Fassbender. He's a hired assassin who, through wonderful voiceover work, tells us what makes him so good at his job. This opening sequence takes its time. The assassination attempt does not magically take place in 5 minutes like we see in most films. Some may start to lose patience. I ate it up. What does finally take place in Paris sets off a chain reaction of events that sees the killer visit various cities around the globe, with the last stop being right here in Chicago. This is not your typical assassin movie. The Killer is all about details. It's about covering your tracks, covering them again and again to make sure no mistakes were made. The Killer is a movie much like David Fincher himself, a perfectionist. The story itself does not over-explain itself like many films in this genre. Instead, it moves forward with purpose, and the viewer has to catch on. I also love this. I thought it was great. We get some amazing scenes in the film, and one of them is with Tilda Swinton, who the killer visits at a restaurant. I don't think Fassbender even says a word of dialogue, yet the scene is tense and very captivating. And that is how I can sum up this film as a whole. Tense and captivating. David Fincher is back in his groove, and I love it.
Is it up there with Seven?
Yeah, I mean, why you got to go all the way that high? I mean, I just saw this. You know, I mean, that's like when you saw Seven. Did you know instantly it was a classic? It's very tough to say.
I think I might have.
It's very tough to say. I can't go there.
I'm not
for
saying
my
is it
very
a
first
classic. I'm saying was it as good? Did you enjoy it as much?
I mean, all I'll say is I enjoyed it. We don't have to compare everything to, you know.
Okay, that's fair.
I enjoyed it very much.
Yeah. Dark.
It's dark, but
is there some action?
Oh yeah, I'm going to get to that in my jaw-dropping moment. Yeah, there's some good action sequences in this, but it is. I think you do have to have patience for the movie to fully enjoy it. I talked to the Lerners, Al and Linda Lerner, fellow critics here in Chicago, the next day when I saw them at Priscilla. And, you know, there's a lot of times downtime before the screening comes on, and they'll ask, you know, oh, what'd you think of The Killer last night? I was like, I loved it. And they both gave me this look like, I don't know. It took a little while to get going. I was like, that's what I loved. So I think there's something in there if you can get into that groove of the details, the precise precision that he has. Like I said, it's stuff that you don't normally see in movies that he's doing to make sure that he's done it absolutely thorough as possible. And I think that's the joy of it. You know,
the meticulous attention to detail.
Right. I mean, when you think, I'll just give you one in this opening sequence. I mean, it takes a very long time for his target to approach, and it's not something like, I'm going to be there, and it's he'll be here this minute, and then you kill the guy kind of deal. You know, there's patience involved. You got to wait for the right time, and you're waiting, and then you got to go and get something to eat. And you got to think about all the places that you may be that nowadays are going to have a camera, something that's going to look suspicious. Because once everything goes down and they start investigating who was in this particular building at a time, think how easy that trace would then, well, what was this guy doing? You know what I mean? Here and so on and so forth. So the killer's explaining how meticulous you got to be to not get caught. And in the real world, in the world we live in with cameras everywhere nowadays. So it's just that kind of detail, and I loved it.
That is really good. You mentioned Tilda Swinton. Was there any other surprise cast members or anybody else that stood out?
That was really the main one for me, was outside of obviously Michael Fassbender, who someone on Twitter is going around saying that he doesn't blink in the movie. This could be actually true. I don't know. He definitely...
Creepy.
Doesn't blink much if he does blink, but that's part of his character, how he's just so intense and so, you know,
ferocious.
Focused. Yeah.
Was there a jaw-dropping moment?
So here's two that I want to mention. One, it is the way the film is edited as a whole. Gives it like a very high energy, and I think that helps with like that, what I was talking about being very slow and meticulous. The editing, on the other hand, is very fast-paced and gives the energy that you feed off of. So that came out great. But there is a scene in this movie that I have to mention that really wowed me, and it's a fight scene. And I've said it on this podcast before, a lot of fight scenes in movies actually bore me, especially when it's like, say, two superheroes who can't hurt each other and they're fighting on screen for, to me, it always feels like the longest time, and nothing really is going to come of it other than, you know, people getting thrown through brick walls and not get hurt. I can't stand it sometimes. Fincher gives us this scene with the killer, Michael Fassbender, in a fight in a dark house with no lights on. And my God, I haven't been this enthralled in a fight scene in a long time. Like, sit up, pay attention kind of thing. It was electric and violent and incredible and all done in like very fluent way. I'm not positive it was all done in one take, but even if it wasn't, I mean,
it kind of looks that way.
It's great. I mean, it's the thing I worry about, though.
Do they name this character, or is it just the killer?
It's called the killer.
Okay.
Yeah, he has no name, just the killer. In fact, the cast is all listed by their part, not a name. So it's the killer, the target, you know, so on and so forth.
Interesting.
Yeah. So what I worry about is, you remember there was the name of the show, Game of Thrones. I didn't watch the series, but
there was a show called Game of Thrones?
Yeah, but the thing I want to talk about was the second to last episode, if you remember the controversy about the dark episode.
Kind of.
Maybe.
I kind of lost it after season 3.
Okay. So I remember there were all these people talking about it the next day, about the show was shot in the dark and this huge fight scene, but people couldn't see it. It was too dark.
Oh, that happens.
But what it is, and everybody would explain this online, is they're filming this thinking you're watching this in a dark room, dark theater with a good TV. People aren't always doing this. They're on their tablet, their phone, a crummy TV. They're watching it in the middle of the day in their living room. That all matters on how you're going to see this. I go back to this fight scene. It'll probably be in my top 5 scenes of the year.
Wow.
And it's dark as hell. And I saw it in the theater and it worked. But Jawheads, I'm telling you now, if you're watching The Killer and you want the most enjoyment of this, don't be watching this at 2 o'clock in the afternoon with a lot of sunlight coming into your room. And then that scene comes on, you wouldn't probably see much because it's meant to be tough to see in a dark theater, much less if you're going to be watching this with, like, you know, tons of lights on in your house or have the sun shining through. So, little advice for the Jawheads.
Okay, those were your jaw-dropping moments. You got a poster quote?
The killer aims for the bullseye and nails it.
Well done.
3.5 Jaws for the killer. Big fan. Big fan.
What held back that fourth, that half jaw?
It's always tough to say, you know?
Okay.
That's why we do
Sounded
the podcast.
like you were going to be all about this. This probably won't make your top 10.
We'll see. I'm interested to watch it a second time when it comes on to Netflix.
Yeah, there's a few I need to rewatch from this year.
That is my review of The Killer. 3.5 Jaws. November 10th on Netflix in select theaters now.
Sounds like it's almost as good as Five Nights at Freddy's.
One more note on The Killer, though. I saw this tweet. I don't know who did it, but somebody on my timeline retweeted it. And the guy was so right. He was like, I can't believe we got a new David Fincher kind of thriller. And there's like no buzz about it. What he meant by no buzz is like, this is why people hate the Netflix model sometimes. It's like, it's opening up, but it's like, I think it's like 300 theaters in the country, which is very small.
Yeah.
There's really no advertising when it comes to a Netflix movie. And then it's just going to drop on Netflix. It's like, you go back a few years ago, a David Fincher movie was like an event. Gone Girl was like
huge.
This is a major moment. And it's like, what?
And
it's
Ben Affleck was in that movie, for God's sake.
And they're just going to plop it on Netflix and hope people see it. I sometimes that model just bothers a lot of people. And it's unfortunate.
Yeah, maybe it'll bounce back the other direction. We'll have to wait and see.
Yeah, but thought I'd point that out. All right, we ready to play some Michael Fassbender trivia, Matt?
Yeah.
You need 3 or more not to be stumped.
Easy.
Question 1. Fassbender played an assassin before in 2016 in this video game adaptation.
Wow. 2016 video game adaptation, Fassbender, assassin.
My guess is you've played the video game. My guess. I mean, that's pretty out there because you've played most video games.
Is it, okay, I'm between 2 games, Hitman and Assassin's Creed. I'm going Assassin's Creed.
That is correct.
I haven't played it.
No?
No. I hear nothing but good things. Never got around to it.
Movie, I hear, was terrible. I've never even seen it.
That doesn't surprise me.
Yeah. Question 2. Michael Fassbender appears in 2 films directed by Ridley Scott. Name them both.
Oh, come on.
Oh, no.
Okay. Prometheus.
That is one.
And the sequel to Prometheus. The one that came after Prometheus.
We need a title.
Can you at least tell me this? Is the word alien in the title?
Yes, okay. I will say that.
And it's not Alien 1, 2, or 3, so we can eliminate those. Is it Alien Resurrection?
That is incorrect. We're looking for Alien Covenant.
Covenant. You should have given it to me.
No.
Half credit.
Boy, oh boy, that is a shame.
It's 1.5.
No, it is 1 out of 2. Question 3 is over to you. Matt, how many X-Men movies did Fassbender appear in?
This is a trick question. This is a trick question because do you count Deadpool as an X-Men movie?
I don't. So I don't want to throw you off there. No, I don't count that as an X-Men movie.
All right, so he was in First Class. He was in Days of Future Past. He was in Dark Phoenix. He was in Age of Apocalypse. That might be it. That might be it. I'm going to say 4.
That is correct. He is in those 4 movies, yes. Did you ever catch up with Dark Phoenix?
Oh, yeah. I saw
you
Dark
did.
Phoenix,
Okay.
and I saw Age of Apocalypse.
Yeah.
The one I haven't caught up with is Days of Future Past, which is probably the best one out of all those.
Yeah, check that one out. Matt got 2 correct with 2 questions left. Fassbender starred in a film in which he wore a large papier-mâché head over his face the entire movie. Get a load of that. The entire movie, a large papier-mâché head. What was the name of that film? It was reviewed here on Cinemajaw.
Was it?
I reviewed it, yep.
When?
I forget the year, but off the top of my head, I want to say 2014, somewhere around there.
A long time ago. Is it just one name? Like, is it just like a man's name is the title of the film?
Boy, oh boy. Yeah, I'll give you that. It is.
I think it's Jack.
Frank. So close.
So close. Come on.
Frank.
Give me partial credit.
If Jawheads, if you haven't seen Frank, very weird, very good. All right. I mean, there's a large papier-mâché mask. It's
I never saw it.
fantastic.
I never saw the movie.
It's really good. All right.
I've seen the cover, though, and it does look weird.
So Matt has 2 correct. It comes down to this last one. It's a fun question, so this is good for the Jawheads. Matt, Michael Fassbender was in Jonah Hex. Name 2 other actors that appear in that movie. A, have you seen Jonah Hex?
Yeah, I think so. But it was like one that in one ear and out the other. Jonah Hex. Who played Jonah Hex himself? Jonah Hex has got scars on one side of his face. I don't know why I want to say Daniel Craig. Is that totally off? All right. My other I was kind of going toward Keanu Reeves.
Incorrect. Got to buzz you after 2 guesses.
All right. Who played Jonah?
You want that one?
Yeah.
Josh Brolin.
Yeah.
Other notables that appeared in this movie. How did this movie stink so bad? You had Michael Fassbender, Josh Brolin, Megan Fox, John Malkovich, Will Arnett, Michael Shannon, Wes Bentley.
Oh, well, anything with Will Arnett's an amazing, like, it's a hit right away. Have you watched Lego Masters? I mean, Jesus.
But it does have a strong cast. Michael
does have a
Shannon's
strong
in there
cast.
as well. Come on. And it stunk.
I don't even remember it. That's how bad it stunk.
Matt, you were stumped this week, only getting 2 correct.
2.5.
Terrible.
2.5.
Terrible.
It wasn't that bad. I mean, I was only stumped by a half of question. So I'm taking that as a win, Ryan. I wasn't stumped.
Unfortunately, you were stumped.
No.
Yep.
Not
you
in
were.
my world.
You totally blew it.
Not in my world.
Yeah. All right. It brings us to the end of a jaw here, Matt. First and foremost, we got to thank our editor, our producer, Phil.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. I wouldn't want to be anywhere else.
Who else should we thank, Ryan?
Let's go with the Patreons.
Let's do that. Thank you, Patreons.
Yes.
We love you. We appreciate you. And
keeps the show rolling.
It does.
You know? Thank you, Patreons. And if you'd like to join our family of Patreons, go over to patreon.com/cinemajaw. And if you can't support us there, another way to do it is just by leaving us a review or at least a star rating.
Yeah, just click a button. And we thank you in advance. It really does help us.
Absolutely. Until next week, I'm Ryan the Movie Guy.
I'm Matt Kay. And keep on jawing about the movies.